The shuttle crossed the gap between the two ships in minutes. Viral sat in the pilot's seat while Drin checked his weapon for the 5th time. He was not happy about this mission, and he had made his feelings clear multiple times since they left the quiet shadow. "If they kill us, the crew will have no leader," he said. "If they wanted to kill us, they would have done it already," Viral replied. "They have had many chances." Drin did not argue, but his jaw was tight and his scales had gone pale with stress. Viral understood his fear. She felt it too, but she also felt something else. A small spark of hope that maybe, just maybe, everything she had been taught about humans was wrong. The Brendakay's docking bay opened to receive them. Viral brought the shuttle in slowly and landed on a marked platform. Through the shuttle window, she could see 2 humans waiting for them. One was Danny Hartwell. The other was the large, dark-skinned male she had seen on the bridge. Viral opened the shuttle door and stepped out. The air in the docking bay was warm and smelled faintly of metal and something else she could not identify. She walked toward the humans with Drin close behind her. Up close, humans were even more unsettling than they appeared on a view screen. Danny was taller than Viral by half a head. His arms were thick with muscle, and his hands looked strong enough to crush bone. But his face was relaxed, and his posture was open. "Commander Viral," he said. "Welcome aboard the Brendakay. This is Sam Ortiz, my communications officer." Sam Ortiz nodded his head in a gesture Viral assumed was a greeting. He was even larger than Danny, with broad shoulders and hands like clubs. But his eyes were kind, and he smiled in a way that seemed genuine. "Nice to meet you, Commander," Sam said. "I've never met a Torani before. This is exciting." Viral did not know how to respond to that. She had expected hostility, or at least cold professionalism. She had not expected excitement. "Thank you for having us," she managed. Danny gestured toward a door at the far end of the docking bay. "Come on, let's go somewhere more comfortable. Are you hungry?" We were about to have dinner. Dinner. They were inviting her to eat with them. Viral glanced at Drin, who looked like he might faint. She turned back to Danny and nodded. "We would be honored to join you." They walked through the corridors of the Brendakay, and Viral tried to observe everything. The ship was not what she had expected. The walls were covered with pictures and decorations. She saw images of green landscapes, blue waters, and strange animals. She saw what looked like family photographs, showing humans of different ages standing together and smiling. "Those are pictures of Earth," Danny explained when he noticed her looking. "Most of us haven't been back in years, but we like to keep reminders around." "You miss your home world," Viral said. "Every day," Danny admitted. "But there's a lot of good work to do out here. Earth will still be there when we're ready to go back." They reached a room that Danny called the mess hall. It was a large space with tables and chairs, and it was already occupied by several other humans. Katie, the yellow-haired female, was there. So were 2 others that Viral had not seen before. A small female with dark hair was sitting at one table, reading something on a portable screen. A young male with red hair was eating from a bowl and talking loudly to no one in particular. Everyone stopped and looked at Viral when she entered. For a terrible moment, she thought she had made a mistake. She thought they were going to attack her. Her muscles tensed, and she prepared to run. Then the small dark-haired female stood up and walked toward her with a warm smile. "Hi," she said. "I'm Lily Chung. Sorry, we don't get many visitors out here. Please, sit down. Can I get you something to drink?" Viral was overwhelmed. These humans were treating her like a welcome guest, not a potential enemy. "Water would be acceptable," she said. Lily nodded and went to get it. Danny led Viral and Drin to a table and pulled out chairs for them. The other humans gathered around, introducing themselves. The red-haired male was named Ben Cooper, and he was the ship's engineer. Katie's full name was Katie Price, and she was the first mate. They all seemed curious about Viral, but not in a threatening way. They asked questions about Tarani culture, about her ship, about how long she had been in the military. They listened to her answers with genuine interest. Drin remained silent and tense, but even he began to relax after a while. The humans made no threatening moves. They did not try to intimidate or dominate. They simply talked, laughed, and shared food. And what strange food it was. Danny explained each dish as it was served. There was something called bread, which was made from ground-up plants. There was a thick red sauce made from a fruit called tomato. There was meat from an animal called a cow, cooked until it was brown and served with vegetables. Viral tried a small piece of the bread. It was soft and had a mild flavor. It was not unpleasant. "What do Tarani eat?" Ben asked with his mouth full. "Mostly fish and sea plants," Viral said. "Our home world is covered in oceans." "That sounds nice," Lily said. "I've always loved the ocean. We don't get to see it much out here." The conversation continued, and Viral found herself relaxing. These humans were strange, yes. They were different from any species she had ever encountered. But they were not the monsters she had expected. After the meal, Danny leaned back in his chair and looked at Viral with a serious expression. "Commander, I want to be honest with you," he said. "I know your people think humans are dangerous. And in some ways, they're right. We've done terrible things throughout our history. We've fought wars, destroyed our environment, hurt each other in ways that are hard to forgive." The mess hall went quiet. The other humans were listening, their faces solemn. "But we've also done incredible things," Danny continued. "We've built hospitals to heal the sick. We've created art that makes people cry with joy. We've crossed oceans and mountains and eventually the stars themselves, not to conquer, but to explore, to learn, to connect with others." He leaned forward. "We're not perfect, not even close. But we're trying. Every day, we're trying to be better than we were yesterday. That's what being human means." Viral looked around the table at the faces of the humans who had welcomed her into their home. She saw kindness there. She saw warmth. She saw something she had never expected to find in a species classified as an extreme threat. She saw hope. "I believe you," she said quietly. "And I think I have been lied to for a very long time." The human on the view screen had two eyes set forward in its skull, like a predator watching prey. Its skin was soft and bare, without scales or armor of any kind. When it opened its mouth to speak, Viral saw teeth designed for tearing meat. But the voice that came through was calm and friendly. "Hey there," the human said. "I'm Captain Danny Hartwell of the cargo hauler, Brenda K. We picked up your ship on sensors and noticed you were running dark. Everything okay over there? Do you need help?" Viral did not know what to say. She had expected threats. She had expected demands for surrender. She had not expected an offer of help. Drin leaned close to her and whispered, "It could be a trick." Viral agreed, but she also knew that refusing to answer would not save them. If the humans wanted to destroy her ship, they could do it whether she spoke or not. "I am Commander Viral of the Tarani scout vessel Quiet Shadow," she said carefully. "We do not require assistance." Danny Hartwell tilted his head slightly. Behind him, Viral could see other humans moving around the bridge. A tall female with yellow hair sat at what looked like a navigation console. A large male with dark skin was monitoring another station. They all looked relaxed, as if finding an alien ship hiding in the dark was a normal event. "You sure about that?" Danny asked. "You were drifting without power. That usually means something broke." "Our systems are functional," Viral said. "We chose to power down. The human's face changed. His eyebrows pulled together, and his mouth turned down. Viral had no experience reading human expressions, but she thought he looked confused. "You powered down on purpose?" he asked. "Why would you do that?" Viral saw no reason to lie. If she was going to die, she would die with honesty. "We were hiding," she said. "From you." Danny Hartwell went very still. The other humans on his bridge stopped what they were doing and looked at the view screen. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then Danny made a sound that startled Viral badly. It was loud and sudden, and it took her a moment to realize that he was laughing. "Katie," he called over his shoulder to the yellow-haired female. "Did you hear that? They were hiding from us." The female, Katie, shook her head and said something that Viral could not hear clearly. Danny turned back to the view screen, still making that strange laughing sound. "I'm sorry," he said. "I don't mean to be rude. It's just that we get this a lot, and it never stops being weird." "I do not understand," Viral said. Danny's face became more serious. "Commander, I think you and I should talk. Really talk. Because if you were hiding from us, that means you've heard the stories. And I'm guessing those stories didn't paint a very nice picture." Viral looked at her crew. They were all watching her, waiting to see what she would do. Keth still looked terrified. Drin had his hand near his weapon. The others were frozen in place. "What do you know about the stories?" Viral asked. Danny sighed. It was a strange human gesture that seemed to release tension from his body. "We know that most species in this part of the galaxy think humans are monsters," he said. "We know there are classified files about us that say we're dangerous predators from a death world. We know that some species shoot at us on sight because they're scared of what we might do." He paused and met Viral's eyes through the view screen. "And we know that some of those stories are true." Viral felt cold. "Then you admit it. Your species is dangerous." "Every species is dangerous under the right conditions," Danny said. "But yeah, humans are built a little different. We evolved on a tough planet. Lots of predators, extreme weather, diseases that could wipe out entire cities. Our bodies learned to keep going when other bodies would quit. We can survive injuries, run for days, eat almost anything. That's just biology." He spread his hands in a gesture that seemed to mean openness. "But that's not all we are. That's what I want you to understand." Viral did not trust him. She could not trust him. Everything she had been taught said that humans were threats to be avoided at all costs. The archives were clear. The protocols were clear, but she was also curious. The archives said a lot about what humans could do, but they said very little about what humans were actually like. They were written by people who had observed from a distance, who had never spoken to a human face to face. "Tell me about your planet," Viral said. "Tell me about Earth." Danny smiled. It was a baring of teeth, but somehow it did not look threatening. "Earth is beautiful," he said, "and terrible. It has mountains so tall you can't breathe at the top and oceans so deep that no light reaches the bottom. It has deserts that will cook you and frozen places that will freeze you solid. It has storms that can destroy cities and earthquakes that split the ground open." He paused. "And it has sunsets that make you cry because they're so pretty. It has forests full of green things growing. It has animals of every shape and size you can imagine. It made us tough, yes, but it also made us love beauty. It made us want to protect things." Katie, the yellow-haired human, spoke up from her station. "Captain, we should probably get moving. The colony is waiting for those medical supplies." "Medical supplies?" Viral asked. Danny nodded. "There's a colony on the far side of this sector. Different species, not human. They got hit by a plague a few months back. We're hauling medicine to help them." Viral did not understand. "You are traveling across the sector to help a species that is not your own?" "That's right. Why?" Danny looked at her with an expression she could not read. "Because they need help," he said. "And we were in a position to give it. That's reason enough for most humans." Viral looked at her crew again. They seemed as confused as she was. This was not what the archives described. This was not what the stories said. "I would like to know more," Viral said. "About your species. About why you do the things you do." Danny smiled again. "Then come aboard," he said. "Share a meal with us. Let us show you who we really are." It was an insane idea. Boarding a human vessel was probably the most dangerous thing Viral could do. Every protocol said she should refuse, make excuses, and leave as fast as possible. But Viral was a commander because she was willing to take risks when the reward was worth it. And the chance to understand the most feared species in the galaxy was worth a great deal. "I will come," she said. "But my second officer will join me." Danny nodded. "We'll be waiting." The channel closed, and Viral turned to face her crew. "Commander," Drin said quietly, "this is madness." "Perhaps," Viral agreed. "But sometimes madness is the only path to wisdom. Prepare a shuttle. We are going to meet the humans." After the meal, Danny offered to show Viral around the ship. Drin wanted to return to the shuttle, but Viral asked him to stay. She was not ready to leave yet. There was still so much she did not understand. They walked through the corridors of the Brenda K, and Danny explained everything they saw. The ship was old, he told her. It had been in service for almost 30 years, passing from captain to captain. Danny had bought it cheap when the previous owner retired, and he had spent 5 years fixing it up. "She's not pretty," he said, patting a wall fondly. "But she's reliable. Gets us where we need to go." They passed by the medical bay, and Danny pointed inside. The room was filled with crates stacked floor to ceiling. Each crate was marked with symbols that Viral did not recognize. "That's the medicine we're delivering," Danny explained. "The colony we're heading to, they got hit hard by a plague. Lost almost a third of their population before they figured out how to slow it down. They needed supplies they couldn't make themselves. So they sent out a call for help. And you answered," Viral said. "Someone had to." They continued walking, and Viral thought about what she was seeing. A ship full of humans, traveling across dangerous space to help complete strangers. It did not fit with anything she had been taught. "May I ask you something?" she said. "Of course." "Your archives, your classified files, they describe humans as predators. They say you evolved to hunt and kill. They say you are capable of great violence." Danny nodded slowly. "That's all true. But I have seen no violence here. I have seen only kindness. How can both things be real?" Danny was quiet for a moment. They had reached the observation window that looked out at the stars. He stopped and stared into the darkness. "Commander, let me tell you about something called empathy," he said. "It's the ability to feel what another person is feeling. When we see someone in pain, we feel that pain ourselves. When we see someone happy, it makes us happy too. It's hardwired into our brains." "Torani have something similar," Viral said. "We call it shared sense." "Then you understand. Now imagine that ability exists in a species that can also run for days without stopping, survive terrible injuries, and keep fighting long after they should be dead. That's what humans are." He turned to look at her. "We feel everything, Commander. Every joy, every sorrow, every injustice. And when we feel something strongly enough, we act on it. Sometimes that leads to terrible things. Wars, revenge, destruction. But sometimes it leads to beautiful things. Sacrifice, protection, healing." Sam Ortiz joined them at the window. He'd been following at a distance, and now he stepped forward to add his voice. "I grew up in a place called Mexico," he said. "Small town, not much money. My grandmother used to tell me stories about the old days, about how people would come together after disasters. Hurricanes, earthquakes, fires. Strangers would show up to help dig through rubble, share food, rebuild homes. They didn't ask for payment. They just helped because it was the right thing to do. That sounds admirable, Viral said. It is. But here's the thing. Those same people, if you threatened their families, would fight like demons. Gentle as lambs 1 minute, fierce as lions the next. That's humanity in a nutshell. We're capable of both. Katie Price appeared at the end of the corridor and walked toward them. She had been listening, and her expression was thoughtful. I think the problem, she said, is that the species who wrote those reports about us only saw one side. They saw humans fighting. They saw humans surviving impossible conditions. And they got scared. Reasonably so, Viral admitted. Maybe. But they never stuck around long enough to see what we do after the fighting stops. They never saw us building schools for our children or caring for our elderly. They never saw us adopting animals as family members or crying at sad stories. Danny nodded. We're complicated. We contain contradictions. The same hand that can throw a punch can also hold a crying child. The same heart that can hate can also love more fiercely than you can imagine. Viral considered this. On her world, species were simpler. Taurani were careful, cautious, and diplomatic. They avoided conflict whenever possible. They did not have the wild emotional range that humans seem to possess. It sounds exhausting, she said honestly. Danny laughed. It really is sometimes. But it's also what makes life worth living. We feel everything so deeply. The highs are incredible, and the lows are terrible, but at least we're alive. Really alive. They continued the tour. Danny showed her the engine room, where Ben Cooper was working on repairs. He showed her the crew quarters, small but comfortable. He showed her the common room, where the crew gathered to watch entertainment from Earth and play games together. Everywhere Viral looked, she saw evidence of community. The humans had built a family here in the cold emptiness of space. They relied on each other, cared for each other, and supported each other through hard times. How long have you all been together? She asked. This crew? About 6 years, Danny said. Katie and I go back further than that. We met in the Merchant Academy on Mars. Sam joined us after his last ship got decommissioned. Ben and Lily came aboard about 3 years ago. And you trust each other with our lives. Drin, who had been silent for most of the tour, finally spoke up. On Taurani ships, crew members are assigned by the collective. We do not choose our companions. That sounds lonely, Katie said. Dryn seemed surprised by the observation. He thought about it for a moment, then slowly nodded. Perhaps it is, he admitted. I had not considered it before. They returned to the mess hall, where Lily had prepared hot drinks for everyone. She called them coffee and tea, and she explained that humans were obsessed with both. Viral tried the tea. It was bitter but not unpleasant. As they sat together, Viral realized that something had changed inside her. The fear she had carried since spotting the human ship on radar was gone. In its place was something new: curiosity, respect, and yes, even the beginning of friendship. I must return to my ship soon, she said. My crew will be worried. I understand, Danny said. But before you go, I want you to know something. If you ever need help out here, the Brenda K will answer. That's a promise. Why? Viral asked. You barely know me. Danny smiled, and for the first time, Viral understood what that expression meant. It was warmth. It was connection. It was the promise of something better. Because you took a chance on us, he said. You could have run. You could have fought. Instead, you came aboard and listened. That means something. Viral stood and straightened her uniform. Then I will make you a promise in return, she said. When I return to Tarai space, I will tell them the truth about humanity, not the legends. The truth. Danny rose and extended his hand, an open palm held toward her. Viral had seen this gesture in the archives. She reached out and placed her 4-fingered hand in his 5-fingered one. They shook, and the connection felt significant. Thank you, Commander, Danny said. That's all we've ever wanted. The shuttle crossed back to the quiet shadow, and Viral sat in silence as Drin piloted them home. Her mind was full of new thoughts, new feelings, and new questions. Everything she had believed about humans had been challenged in the space of a few hours. She was not sure what to make of it. Drin glanced at her as they approached the docking bay. What are you going to tell the crew? He asked. The truth, Viral said. They landed, and Viral stepped out to find her entire crew waiting. 12 worried faces stared at her, searching for signs of injury or distress. Keth rushed forward. Commander, are you injured? Did they harm you? I am fine, Viral said. Better than fine, actually. Gather everyone in the briefing room. I have much to tell you. I have much to tell. 10 minutes later, the crew was assembled. They sat around the central table, their eyes fixed on Viral. She could see the fear in their faces, the same fear she had felt when she first spotted the human ship on radar. She understood that fear now. But she also understood how misplaced it was. I know what the archives say about humans, Viral began. I know the stories we were told as children. I believed them too, until today. She paused, gathering her thoughts. The humans aboard that ship did not threaten us. They did not try to dominate or intimidate us. They offered us food, shared their stories, and treated us as honored guests. Murmurs ran through the crew. Keth looked confused. One of the engineers, a young female named Sorel, raised her hand. Commander, with respect, how do you know it was not an act? Perhaps they were pretending to gain your trust. I considered that, Viral admitted. But I saw their faces, heard their voices, watched how they interacted with each other. These were not predators hiding behind masks. These were people living their lives, caring for each other, and trying to do good work in a difficult universe. She told them about the medical supplies bound for the plague colony. She told them about Danny's explanation of empathy, about Sam's stories of community, about Katie's insight into why humans were misunderstood. The archives are not wrong, Viral said. Humans are dangerous. They are resilient, persistent, and capable of great violence. But the archives are incomplete. They only tell half the story. She leaned forward. Humans are also kind. They feel deeply for others, even strangers. They travel across the galaxy not to conquer, but to help. They form bonds with other species, protect those who cannot protect themselves, and carry hope in their hearts even when circumstances are dark. Drin spoke up. His voice was thoughtful, not challenging. I saw it too, he said. The way they looked at each other, the way they spoke. There was love there. Real love. The kind we share with our own families. The crew was silent. Viral could see that they were struggling to reconcile what she was telling them with everything they had been taught. I am not asking you to forget the caution, Viral said. Humans are still powerful, still different from us in many ways. But I am asking you to consider that caution and fear are not the same thing. We can be careful without being terrified. We can be watchful without being hostile. She stood and moved to the view screen, where the Brenda K was still visible in the distance. That ship is going to deliver medicine to a colony of sick people. The humans on board will spend weeks traveling through dangerous space, risking their lives to help beings they have never met. And when they are done, they will find another ship in need, another community struggling, another problem to solve. That is who they are. She turned back to her crew. When we return to Tarani space, I'm going to file a report. I am going to recommend that our protocols regarding humans be revised. Not eliminated, but changed. I am going to suggest that we open communication channels, explore the possibility of trade, perhaps even consider alliance. Kath's eyes went wide. The High Council will never approve. Perhaps not immediately, Viral agreed. But they will listen. They must listen. Because the alternative is to remain isolated, afraid, and ignorant. And ignorance is a far greater danger than any human ship. The communication console chirped. Viral walked over and saw that it was a transmission from the Brenda K. She opened the channel. Danny Hartwell's face appeared on the screen. And he was smiling. Commander, just wanted to say goodbye before we head out. It's been good talking with you. And with you, Captain, Viral said. Safe travels. You too. And remember what I said. If you ever need help out here, just call. Humans are good at a lot of things, but one thing we're really good at is showing up when people meet us. It's kind of our thing. Behind him, the rest of the crew waved. Katie raised her cup of coffee in salute. Sam gave a friendly nod. Ben shouted something that Viral could not quite hear, and Lily laughed. They looked like a family. A strange alien family, but a family nonetheless. I will remember, Viral said. Good luck with your mission. Thanks, Commander. Take care of yourself. The channel closed, and the Brenda K began to move. Viral watched as the human ship turned away, engines glowing bright, and accelerated toward the distant colony. Within minutes, it was nothing more than a small point of light among the stars. Viral stood at the view screen for a long time, thinking about everything she had learned. The universe was a vast and dangerous place. The Tarani had survived by being careful, by avoiding risks, by staying hidden in the shadows. It was a strategy that had worked for centuries, but maybe there was a better way. Maybe the secret to survival was not hiding from danger, but finding allies who would stand beside you when danger came. Maybe the key to thriving in a hostile universe was not isolation, but connection. And if that was true, then there was no better ally to have than a species that never gave up, never stopped caring, and never left a friend behind. Viral turned to her crew. Set course for home, she said. We have a report to write and a future to change. The quiet shadow powered up its engines and began the long journey back to Tarani space. But for the first time in her 30 years of service, Viral did not feel small or afraid. She felt hopeful. She felt like something new was beginning, something that could change everything. Far across the sector, the Brenda K continued its mission of mercy. And somewhere in the void between stars, two species that had been strangers were now connected by something stronger than fear. They were connected by the most human of all emotions, the belief that tomorrow could be better than today. Commander Viral had been staring at empty space for 3 standard cycles. The patrol route along the disputed corridor was boring work, but someone had to do it. Her ship, the Quiet Shadow, was a small scout vessel with a crew of 12. They watched the borders of Tarani space and reported anything unusual to the collective. Most days, there was nothing to report. Viral sat in her command chair and watched the stars drift past on the main view screen. Her gray-blue scales caught the dim light of the bridge. Like all Tarani, she had 4 fingers on each hand, large dark eyes suited for low light, and a thin frame built for speed rather than strength. The Tarani were not warriors. They were watchers, traders, and diplomats. They survived by being careful and smart. Her sensor officer, Keth, was young and eager. He spent most of his shifts running unnecessary scans just to have something to do. Viral did not mind. It was better than having a lazy crew member who might miss something important. On this particular day, Keth found something. "Commander," he said, his voice uncertain, "I am picking up a ship on long-range sensors." Viral did not move from her chair. Ships passed through the corridor regularly. "What type?" she asked. Keth was quiet for too long. Viral turned to look at him and saw that his scales had gone pale. His hands were shaking over the console. "Keth," she said, more firmly now. "Report. The signature does not match anything in our standard database," Keth said. "I ran it through the restricted archives. There is only one match." He sent the image to the main view screen. Viral saw a ship unlike any she had encountered in her 30 years of service. It was built like a weapon. The hull was broad and heavy, with thick plating along the front. The engine signatures burned so hot that they showed up red on the thermal display. Any Tyranny ship running engines that hot would cook its crew alive. But this ship was not Tyranny. It was not Valkyrie or Syndicate, or any of the dozen species that traveled these routes. The classification file appeared next to the image. Viral read it and felt her heart stop. Human vessel. Classification. Extreme threat. Protocol. Avoid contact at all costs. Viral had grown up hearing stories about humans. Every Tyranny child did. They were tales told in the dark. Warnings about a species so dangerous that even speaking of them was forbidden in polite company. Humans came from a death world, a planet so hostile that it should have killed everything on it. But instead of dying, the humans had become stronger. They had evolved into perfect predators. The story said humans could chase prey for days without stopping. They could survive wounds that would kill any Tyranny. They could eat plants and animals and even poison, and their bodies would find a way to digest it. They did not need sleep the way other species did. They could keep fighting long after they should have collapsed. Viral had always believed these were exaggerations. Scary stories and nothing more. But the ship on her screen was real. And according to her sensors, it was heading directly toward them. "Power down all active systems," Viral ordered. Her voice came out steadier than she expected. "Go dark, now." Her second officer, Drin, looked at her with confusion. He was a veteran of 15 years, and she had never seen him question an order. But he questioned this one. "Commander, should we not prepare for combat? Or at least attempt to flee?" "No," Viral said. "We cannot fight them. We cannot outrun them. Our only chance is that they have not seen us yet. If we drift without power, perhaps they will pass us by." Drin did not argue further. He gave the orders, and the quiet shadow went silent. The lights dimmed. The engines powered down. The weapon systems went offline. The ship drifted in the cold dark of space, and the crew waited. Viral watched the human vessel on the passive sensors. It was still far away, but it was moving fast. Too fast. Tyranny ships could not match that speed without tearing themselves apart. She thought about the stories she had heard as a child. Her grandmother had told her about the first Tyranny probes that had found Earth. They had expected to find a dead world, or perhaps simple animals at most. Instead, they had found a planet covered with cities, machines, and billions of intelligent beings who had clawed their way to dominance through nothing but stubborn refusal to die. The Tyranny High Council had made a decision back then, centuries ago. They had decided never to make contact. They had hoped that humans would stay on their world, too busy fighting each other to notice the stars. But humans had noticed. They had built ships and spread across the galaxy faster than anyone had predicted. And now one of their ships was here. Viral gripped the arms of her chair and watched the human vessel grow larger on her screen. It was close enough now that she could see individual details. The hull was scarred from impacts and repairs. This was not a new ship. It had seen hard use. "Commander," Keth whispered. "They are changing course." Viral saw it. The human ship was turning. It was coming straight toward the quiet shadow now, adjusting its path with a precision that made her sick. They had been seen. Despite the darkness, despite the silence, the humans had found them. Drim placed a hand on his weapon. "We should prepare to fight." "Fighting is death," Viral said. "We have all heard what humans can do. A single human can survive injuries that would kill 10 Tyranni. Their ships are built like fortresses. If we fire on them, they will destroy us in seconds." "Then what do we do?" Drin asked. Viral did not have an answer. She watched the human ship approach and thought about her crew. 12 lives that she was responsible for. 12 lives that might end in the next few minutes because she had been unlucky enough to patrol this route on this day. The human ship came to a stop a short distance from the quiet shadow. It was close enough now that Viral could see it clearly. The ship was larger than hers, but not by much. It was not a warship. At least, it did not look like one. Then the communication console lit up. The humans were hailing them. Keth looked at Viral with fear in his eyes. "They want to talk." Viral took a slow breath. Talking was better than shooting. Maybe she could negotiate. Maybe she could buy time. Maybe there was a chance, however small, that her crew could survive this day. She straightened her spine and faced the view screen. "Open a channel," she said. The screen flickered, and Viral came face to face with a human for the first time in her life. And despite everything she had prepared herself for, she was not ready for what she saw.